Hi, welcome to Budget MTG Decks. All magic fun, all cards under $1. I'm David.
I'm Stefan.
And today we're going to be looking at all the red cards in Dominaria.
We're going to invalidate them for limited, like draft or sealed, like the upcoming Prerelease, where you get 6 boosters and 2 promos.
That is super cool that we're getting that.
Yeah.
And we're going to be evaluating these cards according to our 3-tiered system. Tier 1, these are our bombs, our unconditional removal. These are the cards that win you games. Then we've got our Tier 2. These are also very good cards. We had a couple of these, pushes you into that color, or they're auto-includes if you're already in that color. And finally, the Tier 3 cards. These are the cards that are going to be smoothing out our mana curve, so these are the filler cards. Everything else is either too situational or just plain bad. We're going to put those aside. So without further ado, let's have a look at all the common cards. Our first red card is Warlord's Fury. For a single red, it's a sorcery and states that creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn and you draw a card. Now, when you first look at it, you think, hey, it replaces itself. It's a cantrip, so it's not so bad. 1 mana, also it's actually pretty affordable. Why wouldn't you just always include this? Well, it's because, first of all, the ability is not that great because it doesn't give a boost in power, doesn't give a boost in toughness, and this is the real reason why you don't include it, is because it's a sorcery, which means that people can see it coming a mile away. If this would have said instant speed, I would have said yes, actually you could include it. It would have been especially a good combat trick on the defensive, because you can give all your stuff first strike and then multiple block. But since you can't do that, you can only do this on the offensive, it makes it so much more limited. And remember that you do still need to pay the mana, and you do need to put this card in your deck, which means it's taken in the spot of something else that would be better. So that's why I put it aside.
If it's really bad, if this is like better than anything else.
Yeah.
Skirk Prospector. 1 red, it's a 1/1 goblin. You can sacrifice a goblin to add 1 red. Put aside, it's a 1/1 for 1, so the body won't do anything for you. And sacrificing goblins to get red, that's pretty cool, but you're not gonna use it. So put it aside.
Yeah, it may be, it's kind of like, we're going to look at green later with the Llanowar Elves, which can tap to give you green. This one, we can sacrifice it to give us a red, so it ramps us for 1 turn, but it's simply so much worse. So much worse. Next, we have a Shivan Fire for 1 red. It's an instant, and it's going to deal 2 damage to target creature. However, we can kick it for 4 mana, so in that case, if we pay 5 mana instead, then it's going to deal 4 damage to a creature. Once again, this is really good. Red has removal in the form of dealing damage. And why is this one particularly good? It's because it's good early. It allows you to get rid of your opponent's bears if you need to when you're being super aggressive very early. But late game for 5 mana, you can deal 4 damage, which takes care of almost anything. So that is super versatile. Good early, good late.
Yeah, and 4 damage always so much. And yeah, like you said, good early and good late.
Yeah, perfect.
Gitu Lava Runner. A red, it's a 1/2 human wizard. As long as there are 2 or more instants and sorcery cards in your graveyard, Gitu Lava Runner gets +1/+0 and has haste. But for 1 mana or 1/2, and late in the game it's a 2/2 with haste, I don't like that. Just put it aside.
Yeah, this is an example that's not good early because you won't have the instants and sorceries in your graveyard, so it's just going to be a 1/2, which doesn't do anything. It won't stop people from attacking you with their 2/2s, and you'll only be doing 1 point of damage if you're attacking. And late game, the fact that it's going to come in as a 2/2 with haste is also not going to be very relevant. So this is a perfect example of a card that's bad early and bad late. Fervent Strike is next for a single red. It's an instant. A target creature gets +1/+0 and gains first strike and haste until the end of turn. Okay, for single mana, this is a great combat trick. Tier 3, that's a fine filler card. The first strike means you're going to be winning combats because of this card. And of course, late game, if you get your bomb and you have this card in your hand, you can give it haste, attack right away when people are not expecting it. Maybe they were open because they didn't expect you to be able to attack with your bomb the turn that it comes in. So it's both good early, and it also has function late game.
Yeah, next one Amok. 1 and a red, instant, target attacking creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn. I always love my trample, and for 2 mana +3/+3, it's just insane. Tier 3, it's a really good combat trick.
Really, +3/+3 is a lot.
Yeah,
it is really a lot.
Because normally it's always like just pumping up some power, but this is also toughness, and 3 toughness and power is so much.
Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful combat trick. Then we have Gitu Chronicler for 1 and a red. So for 2 mana, we get a 1/3 human wizard. Okay, so the body's fine already right off the bat. We've seen this. The 1/3s for 2, that's good because they block 2/2s. However, if we kick it, so if we pay an additional 4 mana, then it's going to enter, and we're going to return target instance or sorcery card from our graveyard to your hand. Okay. our removal is going to be instants and sorceries, which means early game we can pop it in. It's going to be a regular 1/3 blocker. However, late game we can pay 6 for it and then get our removal back, which is also pretty good. So it's good early, good late. I think it's a decent filler card, even if you don't have a proper target. So just always tier 3.
Keld and Warcaller. 1 and a red. It's a 2/2 human warrior. So that's already a tier 3. And whenever Keld and Warcaller attacks, put up a lore counter on target saga you control. So you can expedite sagas. That's actually pretty cool, but don't count on it. It's a 2/2 for 2 with upside, tier 3.
Yeah, nothing more to say about that. Bloodstone Goblin for 1 and a red. It's a 2/2, so once again, it's already tier 3 right off the bat. Don't feel bad about playing 2/2s for 2s, because that's your bread and butter when it comes to building your pre-release or your sealed or your draft deck. And whenever you cast a spell, if that spell was kicked, it's good. This guy's going to get +1/+1 and menace until the end of turn. Okay, incidentally, how often are you going to be playing spells that are kicked? Because it's not even a spell with kicker. It's also, you have to kick the spell for this to be activated. So very incidental. Yeah, okay, you might attack with a 3/3 menace one time, perhaps. But don't feel bad about it. Just put it in, because 2/2 for 2 is fine.
Frenzied Rage is the next one. 1 and a red. Enchantment Aura. Enchant creature gets +2/+1 and has menace. Menace is really important. 2 power is a lot, and +1 toughness also helps. We don't really like the enchantment auras, but this set has given us a lot of really good ones, and I think this one also put it in tier 3.
Yeah. Yeah, normally we would almost never be promoting the auras. Always just almost blindly say put them aside because you're 2 for 1ing yourself. But these ones in this set are so cheap and they do so much. They give boost in power and toughness, and they give some form of evasion, and that is just crazy. Yeah. Then we have Gitu Journey Mage for 2 and a red. So for 3 mana, we get a 3/2 Human Wizard. I'm right. The body's fine already. That's good filler right there. Also, when he enters the battlefield, if you control another wizard, this guy's going to deal 2 damage to each opponent. Okay, unlikely that may happen. An extra 2 damage. Whoop-de-doo. The point is that a 3/2 for 3, that's fine. Filler, pop it in your deck. Don't feel bad about it.
Golden Overseer, 2 and a red. It's a 3/1 human warrior with kicker 3 and a red, and it has haste. And when he enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, you gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste until end of turn. 3/1 for 3, I don't really like it. It's haste, that's actually okay. But the kicker cost is really nice, because that means that you can take over another person's creature, and then you have 2 creatures with haste that they didn't expect. And that's really important. Yeah. So for me, it's a really good filler. Yeah, it's actually really good. The reason why I don't think it's so bad to play it for 3 mana, a 3/1, because I actually do like my 3/1s for 2, but those never have haste. And this one does have haste, which means it'll be able to attack around the same time if you played early. Then we have a Seismic Shift for 3 and a red. It's a sorcery. We're going to destroy target land, and then up to 2 target creatures can't block this turn. We don't really want to be playing a land destruction in limited, because there's just simply too many. First of all the lands are essentially going to be basic lands. You know, nobody really has those super good utility lands that you need to get rid of. And there's a chance that later on, especially when this is turn 4, when you're playing this, people are going to get mana flooded. They're going to have plenty of lands, and the window of opportunity when this card actually gives you an advantage is simply too small to warrant its inclusion. Yeah, because the only thing. When it's good at 2 creatures can block, and if someone's really greedy and they're color screwed.
Yeah, and probably as early as possible, so exactly on turn 4.
Exactly, so you don't want to play it at all. Rampaging Cyclops, 3 and a red. It's a 4/4 Cyclops for 4, so that's already really good. But Rampaging Cyclops gets -2/-0 as long as there are 2 or more creatures blocking it. So that's a bit annoying, but that means that people really want to block with 2 creatures. So that's actually pretty nice. Still, you can't really kill both of them, most likely. Still a good filler.
Yeah, it's okay filler. You do have to remember that there are going to be enough times when this thing comes on the battlefield that they will have at least 2 2/2s, realistically. And then, yeah, you will lose this one to one of your 2/2s, which probably costs them 2 mana, and this one costs you 4 mana. So I think I'm a little bit more apprehensive towards including this one. But yeah, if they don't have anything to block with, then you're smacking face.
Yeah, and also if they don't have 2 creatures to block with it. So that's also important.
Yeah, so yeah, still filler. Radiating Lightning for 3 and a red. It's an instant. It deals 3 damage to target player and 1 to each creature that player controls. Now, if people are smart, they're not playing too many 1 toughness creatures, so this should do very little. It can be used as a combat trick, you know, when you've attacked and they've blocked, and then you can use this to deal an additional damage, which might bring it over. But once again, first of all, that's also a very narrow scenario when you can use this combat trick and it actually being useful. And secondly, it's 4 mana that you have to leave open, which is, I think, also quite a lot. I would want a much more powerful effect than that.
Yeah, 4 mana is so much, and you only do 1 damage to creatures. And if it was 1 damage to one creature and 3 damage to one creature and 1 to the rest, then it would be a lot better. Yeah. But it isn't. So
no, put it aside.
Keld Raider, 2 and 2 red. It's a 4/3 human warrior, and when he enters the battlefield, you discard a card. If you do, draw a card. The body is fine, and you draw cards. I like this. Good filler.
Yeah, it's the looting effect, or the rummaging effect is always very strong in limited, because we're digging, we're looking for those extra good cards. Yeah. Fury Intervention for 4 and a red. It's a sorcery with a super awesome picture art on it. Choose 1 Fury Intervention, dealers 5 damage to target creature. So in this case, it would be killing the tree. Or we're going to destroy target artifact, which would be killing that big robotic monster. I would say this is going to be tier 2, because this is essentially your unconditional removal, because 5 damage kills essentially everything. And additionally, well, it can also destroy an artifact, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's for great versatility.
Just in case, yeah, if you need to. But most likely, you will try to kill creatures with this.
Yeah, and 5 mana is okay to deal 5 damage to a creature.
Yeah, for removal for 5, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, a conditional removal 6, 7, I'm also still okay with that.
True.
Fire Elemental, 3 and 2 red. It's a 5/4 elemental. Tier 3, big creature, 5 mana. Sure.
Yeah, it's very uninteresting, but it does get the job done. At 5 mana, if somebody pops this down and starts attacking you, you do not have something that can deal 4 damage. Yeah, you have to block, because 5 damage is simply too much. Next, we have the Flame of Keld.
That was the colors.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, those, I'm getting too excited. Those are the commons. Let's have a look at the uncommons. Okay, so now that we're in the uncommon section, I can finally say that we're going to look at the Flame of Keld for 1 and a red. It's a saga, so when this thing comes in, we're going to discard our hand. Then the turn after that, we're going to draw 2 cards. And then after that, if a red source we control will deal damage to a permanent or player this turn, it's going to deal damage +2 instead. Okay, this may seem super cool, but you remember you got to jump through a lot of hoops. And that first hoop, that's discard your hand, which I think is simply too much of a risk to play, because when you're playing in limit, you're always going to have around 2 cards in your hand, especially even late game. And discarding this and drawing 2 cards, that's the best case scenario that you looted, basically. You got rid of 2 cards, you got 2 new cards on top of that. And I think for just having that 1 turn of being able to do a little bit of extra damage, I think it's not worth the inclusion of the card.
Yeah, also, if you don't play it because you have too many cards in hand, then it's just waiting in your hand, being a dead card, and it's only 2 mana, so it's like you can play it early, but you don't want that, so you have to wait a long time.
Yeah, it's a cheap card that you want to play later, but it also, like, on the turn that it comes in, it doesn't replace itself, gives you new cards. It just discards your hand. That's it, and then you got to wait till the next turn before it gives you another 2 cards, and I think that sets you back just far too much.
Exactly. Orcish Fendle, 1 on a red. It's a 1/1 Orc Warrior, and you can tap it and sacrifice an artifact. And Orcish Fendle does 2 damage to any target. It's a 1/1 for 2. Don't play it, and you have to sacrifice an artifact. You don't really want that, so just put it aside.
All stuff you don't want.
Yeah.
Next, we have Champion of the Flame for 1 and a red. We get a 1/1 Human Warrior with Trample. It's good that he's at Trample with 1 power. And it gets +2/+2 for each R and equipment attached to it. Okay, there we go. Now all of a sudden it can actually start doing some stuff. However, we're going to put that aside because despite the fact that we have seen a couple of auras which we would say, okay, those are fillers, we can include those, and Champion of the Flame is a card that would enjoy having those auras attached to them. The problem is, what are the odds that you will have sufficient in your deck of either, or I mean of both of those card types, that they can actually come together at some point and create that synergy? And even then, what if somebody has removal? It's just there's too many times when both of those cards will be, they won't be together, and you just won't be able to get the benefit out of it. And this card by itself does nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So just put it aside. Fight with Fire. 2 and a red. It's a sorcery. It has kicker for 5 and a red, and it deals 5 damage to target creature. But if it was kicked, you do 10 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. So for 3 mana, 5 damage, already a lot. And then you can kick it, and you can divide 10. I mean, the kicking cost is a lot.
It's excessive, yeah.
It is really excessive. But without it, it's already a tier 2.
Essentially, it's a one-sided board wipe.
Yeah.
But I think the 9 mana is... the 6, 7,
9.
8, 9. Yeah, the 9 mana is simply too high.
9 mana is really a lot.
To be able to count on that. So just look at it as a tier 2. Always include it. Play it for 3. It's removal. Yeah. Wizard's Lightning for 2 and a red. It's an instant. However, if we control a wizard, it's going to just cost a single red. And it deals 3 damage to any target. So once again, for 3 mana, instant, do 3 points of damage. That's fine. That's good. That's what you want in red. Actually, these are the kind of cards you're looking for. So that's tier 2. That's auto. You got a couple of these cards. It's auto include.
And with a wizard, it becomes a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
So the next one, Valduk, Keeper of the Flame, 2 and a red. It's a 3/2 human shaman. It's a legendary creature. And at the beginning of your combat or your turn, for each aura and equipment attached to Valduk, Keeper of the Flame, create a 3/1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste, and exile those creature tokens at the beginning of your next end step. A lot of text. For 3 mana, 3/2 is already good. The other clause is when you work with a lot of enchantments and equipments. Yeah. And like we already said before, you can't really count on it, but still for this mana cost, it's a good filler.
Yeah, mostly just because a 3/2 for 3 mana is a fine filler with potential upside should you even include a single aura of piece of equipment in the deck.
Yeah.
Goblin War Chief is next for 1 and 2 red. So for 3 mana, we get a 2/2. It states that goblins have haste and goblin spells cost 1 less to cast. This is a perfect card to build around in Constructed. We can build multiple of these cards. Goblin Tribal in Commander, love it. However, in Limited, you're just not going to have enough goblins to really make this worth your while. Plus, of course, it's got the double red in its casting cost and the fact that you're just behind on curve with its power and toughness. So I'd say put it aside.
Yeah, you don't really want to play it. Schizos, 3 and a red. It's a 5/3 elemental. It has kicker for a red. Trample, it has haste. At the beginning of the end step, if Schizos wasn't kick, you have to sacrifice it. It's a surprise attacker for 5 power for 4, or you can keep it for 6 mana, for 5 mana, which I think is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
The 3 toughness is a bit meh, but yeah, that's why it has trample. So tier 3. Yeah. I like this.
Yeah, I don't think, unless you find yourself in a scenario where I can't think of a single scenario. I think you always just play it for 5 mana. Because there's not going to be a scenario where you're turn 4 and attacking it will win you the game by getting a free attack in.
I don't think that's a way
to do that. No,
but
so
yeah,
just keep it. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, if you have like a removal spell or something else to actually destroy a creature to get through this, and you really needed that 1 mana, but that's when you're winning anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when you needed this one to win.
Agreed. Goblin Barrage is next for 3 and a red. So for 4 mana, it's going to deal 4 damage to target creature. However, we can also sacrifice a goblin or an artifact for the kicker cost, and then it's going to deal 4 damage. It's also going to deal 4 damage to target player or planeswalker. Okay. The kicker is not going to be very relevant, so just see this as for 4 mana, deal 4 damage to target creature. And that is very decent removal. Once again, 4 kills pretty much everything, so tier 2.
Yeah. I do like doing 4 damage to opponent though. That's really nice.
Yeah, but then you have to have either an artifact, which you don't want to sacrifice, or a goblin, which is unlikely that you have.
That's true. So, potential upside.
Potential upside, yeah, sure.
Warcry Phoenix. 3 and a red. It's a 2/2 Phoenix with flying and haste. When you attack with 3 or more creatures, you may pay 2 and a red. If you do, return Warcry Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. It's probably not gonna come back a lot of times, and flying haste for 2/2, I don't really like this that much.
No.
I mean, 2 power flying is okay, but
for 3 mana,
yeah,
you'd much rather have that. You can have 2 3s flying for 3. Why would you want this? And the chance that you can attack with 2 creatures, I think, is realistic. Being able to attack reliably with 3 creatures, then you're probably already winning the game anyway, and then you don't really need this card. Better get something else.
Exactly. So just put it aside.
Fire Fist Adept for 4 and a red. So for 5 mana, we get a 3/3. So the body's already behind on curve of what we'd like to be to have. So let's see if the ability is relevant. When it enters the battlefield, it deals X damage to target creature an opponent controls, where X is the number of wizards you control. Okay, so unless you're going heavy wizards, which you can't really guarantee. So in essence, when it comes in, it's going to deal guaranteed 1 point of damage, which, as we see, people shouldn't be playing 1 toughness creatures anyway. So I just don't think that this card is going to be able to warrant its inclusion, considering also that it's 5 mana.
Yeah.
You want something much more substantial at 5.
And then you killed a 1 toughness creature? No.
Nah, just put that card aside. All right, those are the uncommons. Let's have a look at the rares.
We start our rares off with the legendary Sorcery, Jaya's Immolating Inferno. It's X and 2 red, and it deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. There's actually a lot, but we've talked about a legendary Sorcery before. You need to have a legendary creature or planeswalker, and you can't really count on it, so I think that's why I put it aside.
Yeah, the ability is super strong, but if you can't use it, it's pointless. The first Eruption is next for 2 and a red, so for 3 mana we get a Saga, and when it enters the battlefield first, we're going to deal 1 damage to each creature without flying. We've discussed already, 1 damage should not make any substantial difference on the board. Then the next turn, we're going to get 2 mana, so it ramps us up. And then the third turn, we're going to sacrifice a mountain, and if we do, first Eruption deals 3 damage to each creature. Okay, the reason why board wipes are so strong is because we can play around it. We can make sure that we know that this card is in our hand, and we're going to be able to make sure that after these 3 turns, basically all the stuff that's on the battlefield is going to get killed. And if we know this already in advance, then we can make sure that we play less stuff, and hence giving us an advantage. The first ability, you could say, okay, it's completely pointless, but the second one, ramping us 2 mana, is quite nice, because let's say if this thing comes in turn 3, we got 3 mana, then turn 4, we got 4 mana, plus these 2, that's 6. That means substantially we should be able to play our bomb, which will have more than 3 toughness.
I hope so.
We should be able to play our bomb, and then the turn after that, the board gets wiped, and we should still have our bomb, and then be able to attack. So that's tier 2.
Yeah, you lose the mountain, but at that point, you don't really care that much.
No. You got your bomb, and you wipe the board.
Exactly. Squiddy Moto, 1 and 2 red. It's a legendary goblin. It's a 2/1, and you may cast Squiddy Moto from your graveyard or from exile. So nothing will stop Squee. It's a 2/1, which isn't that great, but it will come back, it will block, it will do damage, tier 2. I really like this one.
Yeah, it's good early because, well, it's still just a 2/1 that you can use to attack with should they not have anything, and late it is an immortal blocker that you can always keep on using. I do have a problem with the fact that you can cast it from exile, because technically if this creature would be immortal or have indestructible or be able to regenerate, the fact that it cannot die, you could still exile it. Tell it, okay, it's going to go over there into this other portal, and then whether it doesn't die there, but it shouldn't be able to just come back, right? Anyway.
Maybe it's just like you can't get rid of him.
Yeah, but if he's been exiled, just seems weird, just because he's immortal doesn't mean. All right, we've already gone too long about this. All right, next, Goblin Chainler for triple red. Okay, so here's the other one of the series of the cycle. Triple red, we've got a 3/3 with first strike. Okay, well, that's pretty good, right? 3/3 with first strike, we like that. And then when he enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. Okay, so once again, that 1 damage is not that great. So when is this thing coming in? Is it coming on turn 3? No. We've discussed this already. This thing has to come in at turn 6 and still be very relevant. Is the fact that it does 1 point of damage to each creature that our opponents control relevant at turn 6? No. Is a 3/3 with first strike still going to do a lot on turn 6? No. So hence, put this card aside.
Yeah. Two-Headed Giant. 2 and 2 red. It's a 4/4 giant. And whenever Two-Headed Giant attacks, flip 2 coins. If both the coins come up heads, Two-Headed Giant gains double strike until end of turn. If they both end up tails, Two-Headed Giant gains menace until end of turn. So 50% of the times it gets something really good. I think that's actually pretty decent odds, especially because of the body. It's also pretty good.
Yeah.
So tier 2, I always want to play this.
4/4 for 4. That is already nicely on curve with 50% chance of having a very relevant ability.
It's not losing anything either, so it's only gaining something. It's only getting better and better.
Super sweet card. Then we have Siege Gang Commander, a classic for 3 and 2 red. It's a 2/2 goblin, enters the battlefield with 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, and additionally it comes equipped with removal because we can pay 1 and a red, sacrifice a goblin, and then deal 2 damage to any target. Okay, this is a great example of a tier 2 card because you may think, you need goblin tribal, it focuses on goblins, and that's why we put those other cards aside. But why is this so good? It's because it comes with its tiny little army of goblins, so it's not relevant where you're playing any other goblins. This card is good by itself.
And the last one is Haphazard Bombardment. 5 and a red enchantment. When Haphazard Bombardment enters the battlefield, choose 4 non-enchantment permanents you don't control and put an aim counter on each of them, which means you can also target lands if you don't have enough creatures to target. And at the beginning of your end step, if 2 or more permanents you don't control have an aim counter on them, destroy one of these permanents at random. Which means you can destroy 2 things at random in over 2 turns. And I don't like that because you have to choose them. And what are the odds there are 4 really good creatures on the battlefield? And then you can even choose which one dies.
No, it's random and it doesn't happen immediately. It's at the beginning of your end. Well, so it does happen that first turn, but you still have to wait 2 turns and I don't know. It's just too unreliable.
Exactly. Put it aside.
Those are the rares. Let's have a look at the mythics.
Our first mythic is FedEx Bladewing. 2 and 2 red. It's a legendary dragon of 4/4 with flying. That's already insane. And has kick at 3. And when it enters battlefield, if it was kicked, you create Karak's Bladewing, a legendary 4/4 dragon with flying. So for 7 mana, you get 2 of them, which is it was insane already. And now it's even better.
Yeah.
I'm tier 1. What more do you want?
Perfect example of a card that's good on turn 4, but also later it gets even better.
Yeah.
Super strong. Tier 1. Perfect example. Game-winning card. Then we go to the last one, and that is Jaya Ballard for 2 and 3 red. So for 5 mana, we get a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. Her +1 is at 3 mana, but we can at 3 red mana, but we can only use it to cast instant sorcery spells. Which is annoying because we're gonna have mostly creatures in our limited pool. The other +1 is discard up to 3 cards, then draw that many cards. That's pretty nice. Once again, we're digging. That's cool. We're trying to get to our good cards, but this is probably one of the best cards if this is our mythic. So we're digging for the removal.
Yeah, but the thing is, you need to have cards that you want to discard.
Also, yeah,
that's annoying.
Yeah, that's true. If you're in top deck mode, you've got nothing in your hand. This will do nothing to help your situation. That's bad. And then the -8, so it's going to take a while, but then you'll get an emblem, which states that you may cast instant sorcery cards from your graveyard. If you cast it this way, then you got to exile that card. Okay, so you could get a 1 more reuse out of any removal that you've used. Normally, Planeswalkers are almost exclusively always tier 1, because you play it and you say, you answer this thing, or you're dead. And I won the game. But this is actually one which is tier 2.
Yeah, it doesn't actually really help you win the game. If you have heavy instants of sorceries, sure, but the thing is we're playing limited and you won't have that many. So then it becomes really bad because then the +1 doesn't do much, the -8, the ultimate doesn't do much, and then you have the discarding and draw, which is really nice because drawing 3 cards is really nice, but you need to have 3 cards to discard, and I don't like that either.
Yeah, you could do less, but it's just you just need to have the cards.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just it just doesn't push you into winning the game. You know, if this is their bomb, it's not a bomb.
Yeah. I mean, still, I do want to put in tier 2 because of the looting. It can help you search for so many cards, and the opponent has to answer this, because else you're just like finding all your best things.
Yes, but that's why it's tier 2.
Yeah.
You should still play it if you're in red, but it just won't win you the game
No.
by itself. All right, those are the mythics. Let's have a look at the conclusion. In conclusion, I am quite disappointed with red. As we saw in the past sets, I was much more excited about red. We had some extremely aggressive creatures coming in early, high power, dealing lots of damage. We had some awesome instant speed, dealing damage form of removal. In this set, I am kind of shocked that a super aggressive low cost creature have been traded in for more reasonable bodies for their cost, but the abilities seem to be focusing more on, you know, the auras and the enchantments and looking for a little bit more synergy, and the creatures by themselves are not really pulling me into red right now, to tell you the truth. The removal, yes, of course, red's still going to deal damage, which is good, and that's always going to be good, so there's always going to be a reason why you might want to play red as a secondary color, but also not that much in common, so you're going to have to be looking for those in your uncommons, and the chance of having a substantial amount of that's also very low. So I think, actually, other than a few really good cards, you know, you got the dragon, you've got your two-headed giant, you got solid creatures, but I just don't think it's enough to make this your main color.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but like you said, like, I do like my just reasonable bodies, and we have seen sets that we don't have much removal in red, like the damage dealing has been subpar, and actually I like the damage dealing in this set. I actually really do like what we get.
Yeah, we've got a few more. Yeah. That's true, which is good. That's a good strength of red.
No, exactly.
I'm just hoping for a little bit more of those early 3-powered creatures coming in with haste that you can, you know, start poking a little bit earlier. But
I'll just splash red for all the removal.
No, that's not a bad idea. All right, now I would like to remind you guys that we do have a Patreon page. So if you like these videos, you want to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/budgetmtgdecks for as little as $1 a month. You'd really be helping us support the show. And also, if you want to talk to us, you want to get in touch with us, head on over to our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Budget MTG Decks. If you got questions, you got suggestions, head on over there and talk to us. Also, subscribe to us here on YouTube for the most powerful decks and advice everyone can afford. And if you do, don't forget to hit the little bell button so you get notified when the next video comes out, which is going to be the evaluation for all the green cards in Dominaria. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm David.
And I'm Stefan.
And this was Budget MTG Decks.